Welcome to the Heidi Thorne Show. I'm your host, Heidi Thorne, and in this podcast, I share my real-world self-publishing and small business experience with you. So let's get started with today's show. Now, you'll notice that my voice is a little scratchy today. I had a nasty bout of laryngitis over the holiday, so I'm still getting over it. So thank you for putting up with my voice as it is today. But as I'm recording this, we're at the end of November, and it's the last day for NaNoWriMo, which is the National Novel Writing Month, which is November. And during this time, authors who are novel fiction writers create a novel of about 50,000 words in that time frame, in that 1 month time frame. Now, if you were participating in that whole effort, good for you. I hope you got something out of it and that you enjoyed your experience and that you created something wonderful. I've also noticed some of the writers on social media who were participating but didn't quite make the whole 50,000 words. They had a positive experience because it kind of got them going on some writing projects. So whatever you accomplished through the whole process, good for you. But I've got to tell you that I really don't like things like NaNoWriMo and other artificial restraints on writing because I think it doesn't create a good product in the end. I think a lot of people try to fill those words with whatever it takes to make that word count, and it doesn't mean that those words actually count in terms of value. Now, when you're looking at books, is there a real difference between what is a 50,000 word book and a novel that's 100,000 words? Well, it really depends on the message and story that you are trying to convey. I like to use the I love you test. If you're dating someone and you really like them and all of a sudden they blurt out, I love you, are you going to respond with, well, you know, that wasn't in 250 words or 10,000 words or whatever. I'm not sure if I really like that. No, you're probably going to respond with, I love you too. So that is what, a total of 7 words altogether. So you really have to think about what is the story or message you are trying to convey. Just do that and then be done with it. Don't keep trying to pad your book with all kinds of extra extraneous stuff. In the fiction world, it might be over describing scenes or people or situations. In the nonfiction arena, which of course is what I work with, I see a lot of people padding their books with a lot of quotes from others, and you know how much I hate that. That is a huge pet peeve of mine because it's not your work. You're just promoting the work of others. So use your own stuff. And if that means it's a smaller book, oh well, you know, that it's your stuff. I like to look at a couple of popular books. Now, I am a big fan of Seth Godin, who is a business writer for those of you who are in the fiction arena. And I'm showing this book. It's called Lynchpin, which is one of his more recent books. And it's a good book, and I liked it. However, it's about 236 pages. So I'm guessing that might be in the 60,000 word range, at least. But his most popular book, which is considered a business classic, is Purple Cow. Now, this book is only 137 pages. So it's about half of what linchpin is, yet that's the one that's the classic. Again, you can't really measure the value of a book by the word count. It's not a words per pound issue. You know, if you go to the store and you buy produce, yeah, if you put more apples in your bag, it's going to weigh more, you're going to get more. But it's not the same with words. Words need to be carefully chosen. Now, the only time really word count counts is when they're trying to classify what your book is. Is it a novel? Novels can be generally in the commercial space for retail. A novel is in the neighborhood of 70,000 words. It's on the high end, maybe 100,000 words or more. And there's also War and Peace out there, which is like 500,000 words. That's a classic too. But it's 500,000 words. That's a doorstop of a book in print. It will take you forever to read it. And so I think some people, when they write, they think they have to do a War and Peace type book. I get some people approach me to do some editing work, and they say, oh, my book is 150,000 words or 175,000 words or whatever. And I am completely unimpressed. And I know that might depress them a little bit, but I'm not impressed. I generally, when I get those super long books, after I'm done editing, they might be half that size. Just because there's a lot of times so much extraneous material. And what I've noticed too is that, especially writers who are doing their first book, because they don't know if they're going to do any other books, so they want to get everything out of their head and into this maybe one and only book. I call that brain vomit, because they're really just trying to get their book out of their head and into a manuscript. And I don't know how good that is, but yes, you might be doing other books. And I've noticed that once people get in the self-publishing arena, they want to do it more. So you don't have to, put everything into this one book. And if you go traditional publishing, even if you do put all of your effort and everything into this one book, after it's done through the editing process, whether that's your acquisitions editor or developmental editor, it might be sliced and diced to the point where you're saying, hey, is this my book? So don't think about word count in terms of value. It really isn't. The value of your book is in how you convey your message, regardless of the number of words that it contains. So that's why I really don't like these contest type things like NaNoWriMo, because I see people stuffing their manuscripts with junk, and it doesn't mean anything. So if you have participated in NaNoWriMo and you have your 50,000 words or 60 or 70 or whatever you were able to accomplish, I hope you will go through the editing process and see what you can pare down. You've gotten it out on the page now. Now it's time for you to clarify that story or message that you want to get across and make it something that your readers will definitely want to read. So that's all I have for today. And today is also the deadline for the self-publishing survey, November 30. So I'm closing it down as I'm recording this, and the results will be in January. Now I have to tell you, so you're probably, when you're seeing this podcast, whether on video or you're just listening to it, the self-publishing survey is closed, and the results will be publishing in January. And I have to tell you that so far from what I see, it's going to be very, very interesting. So watch for updates, stay tuned on that. And if you found this episode of the Heidi Thorne Show helpful, I would appreciate it if you would go over to iTunes and give the show a nice rating and review, and so that you can keep updated on all the self-publishing news and more tips about how to make your book better. I hope you will subscribe to the Heidi Thorne Show on whatever podcast platform you like. It is currently on iTunes, Stitcher, and Podbean, and the video is on YouTube. You just go to my Heidi Thorne channel and you just subscribe to the Heidi Thorne Show through subscribing to my channel. Also, if you would share this podcast with your author friends, I would really appreciate it, and sharing it on social media is wonderful. Thank you so much if you do. That's all we have for today. I thank you for listening and for your support. I'll look forward to talking with you again in the next episode. And in the meantime, have a great day.